Welcome to another edition of the Creators Outlet. Please subscribe, comment, and share. And we'd like to welcome our guest tonight, Michael from Sire Studios, and podcasting and artistry and writing and the YouTubeage and everything else.
Now, I had a guest on tonight. My podcast literally just ended like about a minute ago, and I called her a visionary. She's an actress and a producer and a director, and she does all these things. So I'll go visionary.
Visionary.
Because why not?
I loved that cartoon when I was a kid.
It's a humble brag. No, it's not even humble at all. Actually, it's pretty straightforward. Actually, but
it's puff the chest out, show off a comic book, and kick the tires and light the fires.
That's it. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. It's making yourself seem larger than life.
So,
how are you doing, sir? I know that is something that I asked you backstage, but I am genuinely always concerned and make sure that you are in good health.
Yeah, I got a cellulitis infection right now, and I figured I'm like, well, I'm overdue for one. I haven't had one in almost a year, so I'm like, where are you, my old friend? And there it is. Little worse than last time. I've got like this immense odd swelling in my left leg that looks like there's a softball underneath it, going down a little bit. I'm on antibiotics till Saturday.
Okay.
And my doctor might put him past that, or when I do my follow-up this Friday, they might be like, hop on that gurney, I'm admitting you. And if that's the case, I get a weekend stay and some pretty nurses will give me some sponge baths. And
could be worse, right?
And I should be out by Monday, because they'll tell me to go to sleep, and 30 seconds after you fall asleep, they'll come in and wake you up because they have to take your vitals and hang like another bag of magic fluid to get all the stuff out of you. And I'm like, okay. Either way,
you're here now.
Yeah, outside of the legs.
You're here now, and you're still here. That's good.
Yeah, I'm still here. Outside of the legs and like the increased pain and swelling and stuff, I feel fine from the knees up. Okay. So
could be worse, right?
Yeah, it could. Oh, it's been worse. But it's going pretty good. Lots of shows coming up on episode 200 pretty soon.
Wow.
It's almost like I've been doing this like 3 or 4 times a week.
Wow.
Oh wait, I have been doing this 3 or 4 times a week.
It's a lot, dude. It's we have our weekly show, the Rogue Wave podcast, and sometimes it can be a grind for sure, but it's actually fun. It's fun bringing, like in your case, which we have guests as well too sometimes, but it's not every week. Sometimes it can be tough to like figure out what to talk about, but it's awesome. Like when you can bring someone else in and just have a chat. So happy to be that other person tonight.
So it's good to have you back again. I think this is your 3rd time on.
Do I get like a robe, like a bathrobe or a jacket or something?
I'll send you a tiara.
I'll wear it. I will wear it.
I think my daughter's.
I'll wear it on my 4th. I'll wear it on my 4th appearance.
Yeah, well, we'll start it with that. It's King Michael from Sire Studios. The Sire is here.
Hell yeah!
So we were talking backstage a little bit about how an enormous piece of pie you bit off in trying to do the graphic novel.
Yeah, and what's nice is I'm in communication with my backers all the time. But we did Sire Volume 3 in January. I had a schedule of that I said, okay, if I do 2 full pages a week. So I'm writing it, I'm drawing it, I'm coloring it, I'm lettering it, I'm doing everything. Rewind actually even further back to when the Sire was first trying to get off the ground. And for anybody who doesn't know the book, it's about a superhero forced by his own costume to fight evil. It's kind of like having a spider sense, but instead of warning him of danger, actually puts him in danger. Good friend of mine, former Marvel editor Darren Sanchez, was like, because this was my plan to begin with, and he says, are you trying to tell a story, or are you trying to do an art project? Because you're going to hold yourself back if you're really intent on doing all the artwork. And back then it was, no, I'm trying to launch my career, trying to get a story that I need out of my head and get it out there. Fast forward 15 years, we just celebrated the 15-year anniversary of the Sire #1. And I was like, no, I actually now I want to take on all this, because it is like an art project, but it's setting myself up into the next stage of my career where I don't have to rely on other artists. I don't have to rely on, other publishers. Thanks to Kickstarter, we can kind of just bring it to the fans. And I can do it in a way now that I couldn't do 15 years ago, artistically, that I'm satisfied with. And I was like, no, I want to do this. Now, mind you, the book, I figured a 6-month schedule would work. It'd be out in July. I'd be shipping it in July, and people would have it in August. It's stretching into September. But I got to tell you, some of the artwork now, because I keep going back. That's the problem. I had my schedule. I was good. But as with any artist, the more you get into it, the better you get. Not in a crazy way, but definitely a couple of the early pages, I said, for consistency's sake, I've got to go back and fix these. And just in general, it's definitely a hard task, because I'm also juggling like 800 other projects too. So it is what it is. It's a good problem to have. The good news, obviously, is being in constant contact with the backers and letting them know and showing them, like, hey, here's the progress. Here's why it's taking so long. I wasn't happy with this. Like, I was giving them, like, here's the original page 6. Now here's the new page 6, and look how much better it is, and I'll feel better about it. So they'll be getting digital rewards in a couple weeks, which is fantastic. And it's the only lesson I learned was, if I'm going to do a single issue, because I definitely would have had a single issue finished. I do have chapter 1 done. And if I had to do it all over again, that's what I would do. But I wanted to do a trade. I was like, nah, I want to do a thick book, man. I like the thick book, but issue 15 will be, or issue 14, I think it is. It's 11, 12, 13 in this one. Issue 14 will be a single issue. I'll figure out a way to market it on Kickstarter. I liked it. I just like doing volumes. Like, it just seemed like a better way to do it. I don't know.
Well, like every third issue, every third or fourth issue you do, depending on how you want to do it, your catch-up tier can be a trade of the last 3 or 4.
Yeah, I could just do a trade. I can also just do a trade as but after it's all done, I don't know. I definitely, I just wanted to challenge myself, and boy did I ever, boy did I ever. So, but it's good. Like I said, it's seriously the best art I've ever done. I legitimately look at it right now and go, wow, that's professional. And anybody who's an artist out there, sometimes you have to really be honest with yourself. And sometimes look at some of the stuff you're doing. And some of the artwork I was doing, 15, 20 years ago was professional, but it wasn't consistent. And this time around, I've got a level of consistency to what professional artists do. And I said, you know what? All right, now I feel good about that. And there's still going to be a panel or two I'm going to have to just redraw. But it's not as daunting a task anymore. And that's thanks to technology, right? Back then, if I'm redrawing something, oh my gosh, then it's like, you have to copy and paste, you have to scan, you have to do all this other stuff. Excuse me, now I can fix things digitally. I can tweak things digitally that, you just couldn't do back when I was first doing all this stuff. And, now kind of, this is my second decade doing work in comics. I'm not as big a stickler to the perfectionist route, and not in a bad way. Like in a good way, like a total good way of not being like a slave to, well, it's got to do this because I have to sell pages at cons, and that's how I'm going to make money. And, like even just little things like that is what I would think of when I was a younger artist. I was always constantly thinking of, how can I make this be my living? And the only way you make that a living is you got to figure out as much that you can sell. But that was back in, in the day when you would go to cons. Now, pre-pandemic cons were big, and they will be back again. I'm very convinced that will happen. But now with the method of Kickstarter, I mean, there's a delivery system that and a capacity to make money that it's now more important to just continue to process work and get it done. That's the number one thing, because the platform is there now. It's not something you have to, really worry about, which is what we had to when I was first breaking in.
Yeah. I'm not sure about Kickstarter because I've backed a good amount of stuff on Kickstarter, most of which are tabletop games, but they are comic book tabletop games. I backed.
Hey, whatever floats your boat, man. No judgment.
Look, it's always going to have a nerd connection,
That's it.
So last Christmas, I got in the Umbrella Academy card game.
Okay.
And I was expecting the box to be bigger than this, but for $70, I was expecting the box to be bigger than this. I did just back the
objects in the air are closer than they appear, or further back than they appear. I guess.
They're mini cards. I'm like, man, I'm freaking old. I can't. Like, come on. I did earlier this year back the Dark Knight Returns tabletop game.
Okay.
And of course, I backed the deluxe edition because the regular edition. Remember the old Escape from the Death Star board game when we were kids?
Yep.
You got the characters, but they were on double-sided fold-down cardboard. And you put them in like this little dinky plastic stand, and you would move them around. So if you got like the $70 version of the game, well, $75 version of the game, that's what you got for pieces. If you got the $100 version of the game, they actually sculpted and made like little plastic resin figures for like everything and added on. The more money they made, the more pieces they put together for it. So I spent the $100.
When was that? You said that's the last thing you did.
That was last March.
Ooh.
And it's supposedly due out for Christmas. So.
Okay. That's totally fair.
It's a $100 thing for somebody on a fixed income. That's quite a bit of money. But it was like, I missed out.
That'll get you to the next day, though. There's merit to that sometimes,
It'll get me to the next day, but
you're responsible with it.
And then I have to, finish and get people to actually come over and actually play a game.
Zoom it, baby. I don't know how you do it, but we'll figure it out.
My daughter has come to the realization that she does not like playing games with Dad because Dad has had too much time playing games and he's good at some stuff. She loved playing Uno with me until I would end up with like 4 or 5 draw 4s in my hand at a time and just play the almighty Captain Kirk Hand of Fizdin. And I would come back from, having one card and burying her under a heap.
I'm going to do shameless plug time, but my buddy James Massia from Dren Productions has a new tabletop game on Kickstarter.
Cool. You got a link for it?
What's that? I have to find it. I'm going to find it.
Okay.
That's shameless plug time, but you can look up Dren Productions on Kickstarter for sure and check out some of the stuff he's got. He told me years ago, he's like, tabletop gaming. He's like, that's going to be the next big thing, like big thing, and it's huge. He's got a knack for those things. He's just he's very ahead of the curve.
I've always liked tabletop games. I don't think this is it. I put in Dren Productions on Kickstarter, and it gives me
Dren Productions.
Oh, Dren. That's why.
Yeah, it's nerd spelled backwards.
That's too bad because it was bringing me to a Kickstarter for Judge Dredd, in the worlds of 2000 AD, but I can go back there after the show.
Let me see if I can. I'm like looking right now. See, this is like in the moment. Let's see. Architects of the Deep. That's the one he's doing. But I don't think. I don't think he's live right now. Let's see.
The first one that came up for me was Dungeons and Dimwits.
He's got that too. He's got that too. Architects of the Deep. So it was already fully funded. But man, he's killing it with that. It's phenomenal. He's doing such a great job with that. Pledged $12,000 of his $2,000 goal.
Nice.
Here, I'll shoot you off a link.
So I went into his profile, so I'm gonna follow him over on Twitter so I can
yes,
see what he's got going on. You know, who would have ever thought that I would have been active on Twitter?
Twitter's a cesspool. I'm not gonna lie. Twitter is definitely a cesspool. There is
it's a cesspool, but I have also let's see. I just liked Dren Productions LLC over on Facebook too. So we got that.
James is the man, and we have a book. See, this is shameless. See how the shameless plug kind of ties in. So we're gonna have a Kickstarter coming out. It's Plan 59 from Outer Space. It's the sequel to Plan 9. They've tried 50 other plans, and it's book 2, so it'll be out next month, which is pretty cool.
Oh, nice. And we will continue with the shameless plug and throw that up in the chat.
I can't help it. That's
that's what we're here for. You know, so you can go over. You can check that out, even though it's been fully funded. But you can hit his.
You can follow. That's it. It's all about following him.
You click and once you hit the follow button on Kickstarter, you'll just get notified every time he launches something new.
Exactly.
And you can, by all means, go and, follow him on Twitter and Facebook as well. Because, why not? I did. They're like, whoa, we don't have to do it because you're just going to tell us all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, but if you're not watching, you won't know.
True.
So, it's just one of those things. So, yeah, I just want to take a quick look at this one.
Do it. James I gotta tell you, James Massey is one of the reasons I'm still doing work. He's messaging me right now. The RPG games. These are RPG games. The board game hasn't launched yet.
Okay.
I'm gonna get him on your show, and you can tell him all about this stuff.
Yeah, I like RPGs.
The thing about James Massey, this is the thing that's great about him. He is one of the most prolific writers that I know. First of all, and when I say prolific, I mean he's just spitting novels out. He writes comics. He's doing RPG games. He commissions artists for parody prints. Parody like a PARODY, like parody prints. I'm just always so amazed. And so we went to college together, and it was around 2012 where I had been published by Image earlier than that, but all my my editor was let go.
Hey, James.
Oh, there he is. See, boom. I told him check it out. I told him I was like, I'm plugging you right now. And it was 2012. It's New York Comic Con, and that's when he started doing his own stuff. And so we would always like share a table or things like that. And he would always have these things and like plans and projects, and it helps kind of. Not that I was never going to drop out, but I was definitely in that very
shaky ground.
Yeah, where you're like, wow, I worked really hard to get where I was at, and it amounted to essentially 1 3-issue miniseries, and I colored another book for Image, and that was it. And I wasn't getting any new projects, and I wasn't, I would be pitching, but I'd get rejected, and it was one of those things where the two of us would really just kind of hunker down and do these shows. And mind you, he was just kind of starting out at that point, and I was kind of, floundering for lack of a better term. But through the course of those couple of years of just kind of sticking around and staying with it, and that's thanks to him. I mean, there's no question about it. Where he would definitely kind of push and poke and prod, and now I hooked up with a new company called Rogue Matter, and I was able to introduce him to them. And but him on his own, Dren Productions has done so well in the Kickstarter space, and that's all him. And he's really taken advantage of the new platforms that are out there. And the two of us have collaborated on Plan 59, and we've got some more collaborations coming in, and he's doing some stuff at Rogue Matter also. So it's cool to see the perseverance pays off, because people tell you to stick around, and it's a great way to motivate, and it's definitely accurate, because when you talk to folks who make it, or folks that are doing this for a living in any medium, right, be it comics, be it entertainment, be it whatever, they're always like, well, I stuck with it and I persevered. However, I'm sure there are a ton of people that are like, I stuck with it and persevered for 15 years and didn't make it and didn't get anywhere. And so just sticking around is part of the formula. But also being able to deliver like quality products and quality work and have talent and really showcases is the other end of the equation. And sometimes, you get a little luck thrown in too. But luck is just putting yourself in position to succeed. And I think, what James has done and hopefully what I've done is just put ourselves in position to succeed. So it's been pretty cool.
Oh yeah. And this book right here, the book of notices that's up on the screen, that's genius, because there's so many people that play D&D and so many that do online. Matter of fact, people that I'm friends with on their channel do a live RPG stream. It's not D&D. It's based off a different mechanic, but it's along those. They're all offshoots of one another. So
yeah.
And they do it live every Wednesday. It's very entertaining. It's very 18 and over.
Yeah.
But
nothing wrong with that.
This is genius, because it's like if you play, any given campaign out of D&D, it's like a straight shoot. You're going to do this, and this.
Yep.
This makes it so you can do 37 and a half different more things.
Yeah, no, he's got it. I'm 100% honest when I tell you I really know next to nothing about RPG games. So if you're saying genius, awesome, because he's got a good ear to the ground for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, he must. The goal on this was 2K, and he did 12,214 with 448 backers.
Not bad.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Not bad. Like I said, he's got the Kickstarter calculation down pat, and Kickstarter's just a fun place too right now. And Indiegogo too. I don't think there's any real difference. I know both platforms have kind of gotten politicized very highly, because that's what we do right now. I'm so over it.
It's so ridiculous.
But what they, what there's a formula to it, but there's also an opportunity. And what Kickstarter has become is a place that people go to look for new things and new comics and new RPGs and new board games. And it's definitely graduated from my early perception of, why am I asking my friends and family for money? Like GoFundMe is still like exactly what that is. Like, to me, GoFundMe is, you need money, please give me money. Kickstarter is more about a supply and demand purchase system, and it's a distribution system, and that's
Yeah, Kickstarter is like the eBay of crowdfunding, and Indiegogo is like the whatnot of crowdfunding.
Yeah.
I like the mechanics of Indiegogo better. I like the fact that they take out less fees, so the creator gets more money. Something you might like, and if even if you fund, if you want, you can, before your 30 days are up, you can re-up for another 30, which by the way gives you a kick back up to the top of their algorithm. For people to see. There's tricks of the trade, you know that.
It's funny. I did one Indiegogo campaign, and it was really a learning experience. And what I like about Indiegogo, they have the after experience though too, is that you can take anything, and you can still. I'm just trying to look what the exact
in demand.
That's it. Okay.
As long as you fund,
that's something we're going to be diving into, where you can put your hey, this thing was successfully funded on Kickstarter. Now check us out on Indiegogo and hopefully reach a new audience without having to do a new campaign. Yeah, because that was the big thing. Like when I would finish,
the campaign is the same, but each one requires that you have an exclusive cover for their platform.
Okay.
So
easy enough.
You might know an artist that might be able to draw like an Indiegogo exclusive cover, and people love exclusives and new stuff. It's like, you can only get this on Indiegogo, you can only get that on Kickstarter, and then you start feeling, ooh, I went all in on Indiegogo on this. I really don't have any money left to go to Kickstarter, but you still have something exclusive. And when those books go back to print, or when the creators show up to the con, they don't have any of the exclusive crowdfunding covers. They just have like the main cover and any variants that weren't exclusives to sell you, so you can still buy them. But I found on Indiegogo, a huge thing is people love to buy original art over there.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's interesting to know.
And there's a big talent pool over there. In fact, guy that I became great friends with, Sean Howe, he's a freelance illustrator, and I do the Seanzilla art show with him every Wednesday night at 11.
Okay.
It would have been earlier, but
is that a shameless plug?
That is a shameless plug.
Excellent. I think we're up to 5 now, which is between the two of us.
Hey,
probably more than that. I'm probably miscounting.
There's no limit. This is a free shameless plugs are like free refills at McDonald's when you're a senior citizen.
I agree.
But he's on, and he's been doing covers for the last thing he did covers for was Alton's book, Witches of Westchester. The same guy that does Vampires in New Jersey.
Sure.
So he did 2 covers. They did, because he does all the Naughty and Nice covers on his campaigns.
Okay.
So Sean did a Naughty and Nice cover, and one of the first stretch goals was an A4 print of Sean's Nice cover. And he already sold the original art for that about I think like 3 days after the cover was approved. It sold. He's got this guy that is just in love with his work and buys stacks of original art at a time off him. Will be like, show me the last 150 pieces you did, and send them over to me in a PDF, and I'll tell you which ones I'm buying.
Wow.
Okay.
Dude, that's incredible. It's incredible, though. We were kind of just talking about this on my podcast tonight too, where it's just so different, and that's okay. Like, that's a good thing, right? It's such a different time to be a fan where, I mean, part of that is now also the pandemic, right? I mean, that's obviously impacted the virtual experience, the metaverse, as they like to call it. But it's. I mean, the thought that you could connect with the person. So we were talking about Craven's Last Hunt tonight on the Rogue Wave podcast. We actually had my co-host for another podcast that I do, which is called Wednesday Forever. And Wednesday Forever, we talk about the comics that inspired a generation. We thought it'd be really fun to do it through the Rogue Wave podcast. And we actually interviewed my co-host on that, which is Hassan Godwin, and his book was Craven's Last Hunt. And we were talking about how that book was so impactful for him because, he was maybe like 7, 8 years old. He was at sleepaway camp. And he only had the first 3 issues of the series in which Spider-Man dies. And he's like, that whole summer I was convinced Spider-Man was dead. And it's because, as opposed to today, you don't have that instant access to both the creators, both the creatives. He had to wait a good month, until, and then he had to wait till he went home because he couldn't get to a comic book shop, or he couldn't get to, there wasn't even, back then it was like stationery stores or Rite Aid or, Toys R Us or, wherever. There's so many places you could buy comic books that you can't buy now. But at the same time, you're limited by, as an 8-year-old, your ability to get someone to drive you there. and maybe you have the money to buy
for the comics.
Right. So, versus now where you literally, if he was at sleepaway camp, he'd have his cell phone and he would know what happened every week.
Yeah.
And so it's a fascinating time now in that selling original art of an indie book 20 years ago, I think would almost be unheard of. And to be able to do that through a Kickstarter now, I think that's mind blowing.
Yeah. I mean, you find that a lot of the fans are just, either rediscovering or just going back to, indie books and being like, I like this better. I can have a personal connection with the creator. I can ask this dude questions online, and I don't, there's, conventions are just starting to come back. But like last year, you could ask, like yourself or anybody else a question about their book, and they would answer you, and it wouldn't cost you, $57 for an entry fee and,
right.
The Ticketmaster charge, and then waiting in line.
Yep.
And, it's, there's a personal connection, and with all the shows like yours and mine, people can get to know the creators, through their appearances on these shows, which just will draw them in more.
Yep.
Or if they're a jerk on the show, maybe chase them away. But it'll let you get to know them better.
Yeah.
And then you notice people will, in waves, start following certain groups of creators around because they've fallen in love with their work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I go, this is awesome. I go, I don't need Batman anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got Batman comics going back from like the beginning of the year to I don't know, 1976.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty
I've actually
sure.
been rereading. To your point, I've been rereading all my old comics now, and I still enjoy them more than most of the new comics that I get out there. Stray Bullets is one exception. I think Stray Bullets is an amazing book.
Mm-hmm.
The X-Men books recently have been more interesting, but I actually loved, prior to Jonathan Hickman's run, Cullen Bunn was doing a run that I thought was just as good. The art wasn't as good, but the run itself was just as good as any, X-Men storyline that I'd come before. But honestly, comic books like the mainstream Marvel and DC, now that we have Disney Plus, now that we have the MCU, those feel like the legitimate universes, which is a terrible thing in a way, right? Because the comic book itself, I mean, I remember, and it's not just because you're younger, because I could still have the feeling in my 20s about like, man, I got to get to the comic book store because I want to know what happens in X universe or Spider-Man universe, or, you know, it's not just youthful energy. It's not just nostalgia. There was definitely a weight to them that we don't have now, because I think the media, you know, or where the good stories are being told now is being told on like a WandaVision or a Loki series or a Shang-Chi movie, you know, Suicide Squad. I'm not a DC guy, but that was a fun movie, you know, and that's now where we're getting, I feel like I'm getting at least the same kind of like fix that I used to get from the comic books, and the comic books themselves I don't. But I will tell you, there's definitely some indie books out there that, you know, excite me and I'm curious for. But that's it's a transformation for me personally in terms of like how I am as a comic book fan.
I, on the other hand, had the opposite view of the X-Men.
Okay. No, that's fair. Everyone's got, you know, wait, of the recent ones?
Yeah. I'm like, we're going to a dinner party. I'm like,
see, all right. I agree with that.
Out. And I wasn't liking the other stuff. I wasn't like really enjoying the other stuff I was reading.
The Powers of 10 and House of X is more along the lines of what I was talking about. I actually read an interview with Hickman, and he's obviously stepping away because that's what they do now. They bring in like kind of like a coach, and they kind of, you know, have other. Al Ewing's a good writer though, so I'm curious to see what he comes up with. But, you know, he basically said like, I had a first, second, and third act, but everyone's enjoying the first act so much, so we're going to stay here. And I'm like, oh no, like, don't do that. Like, you know, the one thing I've noticed about the Marvel universe is, and maybe DC too, but I don't really read too much DC, so I don't know if this is the case. I feel like the writers have taken for granted like how hard it is to create technology and the challenge that there should be in, you know, I feel like everything's just so easy, right? Like the X-Men can just show up and they're like, we've just cured world disease. And it's like, it should be harder than just you telling me you just, you know, cured the world disease because you're mutants. It's the same thing with the Avengers Endgame, where Tony Stark figures out time travel in like 2 minutes. It's like, dude, that should be the whole movie, is you figuring out time travel, not, oh, I came up with it over breakfast and now we can do it. And it's like, all right, well then, if you can do that, you've now detached me from reality. Because in reality, you know, whether you want the vaccine or not, it took a full 1.5 years to create a vaccine. It wasn't like COVID came and then all of a sudden we had something to fight it. You know what I mean? Like there was a struggle. Like if you're looking at it and I don't mean to belittle the pandemic, but if you look at the pandemic as a storyline, in today's Marvel universe, they would have solved it after the first like day or 2 days, because they just take for granted this, you know, amount of, I mean, for lack of a better term, like fiction science that they have in this universe, and the writers are not. I don't know. It's like what happens when you have a show like The Walking Dead or Buffy, and the vampires are a real threat in season 1, and season 2 they're still kind of a threat, but by season 7, because we as viewers or them as writers have seen it enough times, vampires, all of a sudden Buffy's just like, oh ho hum, like humans are just killing vampires like no problem, like stabbing a stake through a vampire's heart. It's like, no, you don't have Buffy powers. How are you stabbing them so easily? You know, walkers used to be a real problem. That's why I actually do respect, you know, the job they did with the TV series sometimes, because even in the later seasons, they would still make the walkers a threat, and the walkers could still randomly kill somebody. And at least you remind people that, like, oh yeah, these guys, just because you're used to them doesn't mean they're not a threat anymore. Just because you have a guy in an Iron Man suit, which defies logic, doesn't mean that everything in the world is super easy to accomplish and futuristic. Because if you do that, then all of a sudden you take away, I don't know, to me anyway, you take away the challenge. Like, who's going to stop the X-Men now that they have their own island? Who's going to stop, that they're almost like Superman. And what's the problem with writing Superman? He's perfect, right? Like, you can't, you need to almost figure out a way to make him have some sort of faults. And so if you make the X-Men perfect, if you make the Avengers perfect, you make Tony Stark like, oh, by the way, took me over to lunch and I just created a cure for COVID now. And it's like, yeah, well, okay, that's great, but that is not real life. And
yeah, there was a reason why Bob Layton's Demon in a Bottle run was a perfect Iron Man run, because it's like you took the perfection off of Tony Stark, and now he's like, trying to put on a suit of armor and a bottle of Jack. So
no, I mean, absolutely, and that's those kind of smaller stories, I think that has gotten away from maybe the big two comic book creators. But you get it. Indies to me is a mixed bag too, right? You're either going to get greatness or you're going to get amateur. I feel like there's no in between when it comes to that. You're going to get one or the other. And like there's folks like Big Dog Inc. that do a great job. Like, it's a professional book. Always, whether you like the book or not, you're never going to question whether or not it's professional and professionally done and authentic, because he was doing things. Tom Hutchinson, he was doing things. He was in the trenches, with me back in the day, really building a company and having to do that. And then there's some Kickstarters I backed where it's like, all right, I'm glad that you're achieving your dream. I'm glad I helped you achieve your dream. If you were going to submit this somewhere, it wouldn't get accepted. And there's a difference between being like subjectively accepted or rejected, and because I've been turned down from Image. You're going to get rejections, and a lot of times it's like, just not my cup of tea. Really nice book, not my cup of tea. Not what I'm looking for. Not what we're looking for right now. And that's different than when I first submitted Sire way back in the day to Diamond, where it's like art wasn't good enough. And that was the reason they didn't take it. They're like, the art isn't good enough. This will not sell in comic book stores because it's not professional. And you kind of get a mixed bag sometimes when you're on Kickstarter in terms of, quality of product. Mm-hmm. We've rambled a lot.
Yeah. It's, you really have to, as a backer, you have to really do your due diligence. And, one of the first things you want to research is, are these first-time creators? Mm-hmm. Because 9 out of 10 longtime supporters of the indie, the indie crowdfund scene, the first thing we all want to know is, how are they on fulfillment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are they on time every time? Or if not, are they very communicative
right.
with their backers, somebody at Sire Studios? Look, I just gave you your own shameless plug.
I'm down with that.
I've had projects that have been, pushed
Dude,
back and pushed back.
In 2017, I still have not gotten.
Oh, I think I forget the name, but I know what project you speaketh of, because it has been spoken with hellfire and brimstone coming out of some people's mouths. I know.
Maybe. Like, I mean, the thing is, the creator itself seems like a good guy. I've had him on my show. He's a nice guy, and and it's that people get on there and all of a sudden they realize, like, holy cow, like, creating comics is hard, man. Like, it's really hard. It's not easy. And I don't say that to try to be flippant. It's not. It's a job, man. It's a job, like, and it sucks because you don't want to make your passion a job, but you have to sometimes. You have to understand that you are creating something that someone wants. They're going to consume it very quickly, and they're going to want the next thing. And it sucks because you put a lot of effort into it. And I remember thinking that back in the day. I'm like, people have asked me, like, what's the one thing you learned from doing Sire? And I said, the one thing I learned was I should have had all 3 issues in the can. I should have had those done, because it took me so long just to get it accepted at Diamond, to get it done, to get it lettered, to get it colored, that when it finally hit, I was like, oh crap, I got to do this again. Like almost overnight, like I had to do it. Like something that took me like 2 years of prep work, and quite frankly longer than that, but it was in different iterations at that point. But Dan Leister and I started drawing it and putting it together, I mean, January 2005, and the culmination didn't happen until June of 2006. I mean, it's only a year and a half. And it's like, okay, now you got to do all that stuff that you took a year and a half to do. You got to do it in 30 days. And you're like, oh, and you think you can do it. He was working a job at the time. He wasn't doing comics full time. Bless him. He did a great job. And, we managed to put out issue 2. I did it as a bi-monthly release. And then the other one I did as 3 months down the road, but it was a grind.
Oh yeah.
And so you see these Kickstarter folks coming up there, and I made the same mistake. I only had a few pages done of the Sire Volume 3, but I had a plan and a schedule, and of course that goes out the window. But I have a track record at least, and like you had said, there's communication as well. That there's at least a little bit of credibility to me saying, hey, look, it's going to come, it's going to be there. But you have some folks that are out there for the first time. It's like, yeah, how much is actually done? Because otherwise you're not getting your book for a while. And it's only going to hurt you in the end too, right? Like, I mean, you as a creator is only going to hurt because people are not going to respond well to the next thing you do. I have a book called Time Trader that's out through Rogue Matter. We had COVID delays. The art team was in India. So when, Delta variant hit, that delayed it a few months. And then just the printer, there's a supply delay going on right now too.
And there's a huge paper shortage.
Oh my God. The printer had it for a good month and a half. Like literally we sent it to them in August, and they're just getting it out now, So it's there's some things you can't control, but it is about building that credibility up.
I had the same problem. I started back in about when I first started doing the show. I went. I'm sure you've heard this from me. I went a little overboard, and then I went to pay bills, and I didn't have any money left, and my cards were all overdrawn because. And this is another positive to negative effect, and everybody's got their own opinion on it. But Indiegogo does the as soon as you make that pledge, we're taking your money.
Okay.
They take the money right up front. Kickstarter takes it when it wraps.
Right.
My problem was like, I don't have to worry about that money for Kickstarter. It's not. Oh crap! It's October.
I got you.
And but I had this young man on, Connor Bartel. His artist and himself had done like a sci-fi western book that's in trade. That looks gorgeous. And it's a big beefy, like 165 page book.
Okay.
Something that you don't want to try. They did the floppies first, and then they did a release down the road of the trade. They put it into trade afterwards, and then every time they launched the new project, they put it on as an add-on.
Okay.
That people could get after they made their pledge. But he started doing this 3-part samurai story.
Okay.
Which I loved. It might have something to do with the fact that, when I was a kid, there was a certain mini series that came out with Richard Chamberlain where his ship crashed on the shores of feudal Japan. And, the show Shogun was born that I've watched like 80 million times.
Yep.
Somewhere around here, I actually have a making of Shogun and behind the scenes like trade paperback book that I got at like a flea market for like $5 or something. But I've always loved that whole culture. I love history, so it was I looked at it and the art on it was amazing.
Okay.
Black and white, and it was done. Let me just say, David Mackish.
Okay.
Just his black and white stuff, not his color stuff. And it was done very traditionally.
Too, yeah.
And it was just gorgeous. And I bought the book where the main book would be in the front of the book, and then he would have pencils of the pages, and the script to go through, so you could read the original script and you could see the transition from the pencils to the inks. And so that was the version of all the books I bought, and that's the version of the book that I bought this time. So it's double sized, and it was a great experience. Cover work and all the extra stuff they put in it was super well done. But he's in Alaska. His artist is in Turkey.
It's pretty amazing, right?
So it's awesome. The problem came in to COVID restrictions and then paper shortages and he's in Alaska. So it's been about a year and a half, and he just released he just sent like 2 updates today. One was, here's your digital rewards. So I downloaded the digital and I looked, I go, yeah, I don't want to read it. I want to wait till I had the real thing in my hand. And he said the others mailed out. He prints through Mix'em for the lower 48. He prints through Mix'em in Florida, and they print up everything: his A4s, his bookmarks, and whatever else gets done. It all goes in the package. All comes to me brand new. I've never had an issue with it. There's never been, a problem. And so, but with the paper shortages, it put everything on a, on a domino effect, pushback. And I've known like a lot of people that have gone through that. And Rich Parada over in the UK, he's got the second chapter of his book. He was just waiting for the hardcovers to come in because the same thing, delay of product to be able to make the books. But they finally come in, and he just got a deal that he announced the other day that yes, and cardboard shortages too. There is sadly a big shortage of Gemini mailers, sadly. So when you get a Gemini mailer, if there's no label on it and they put it inside an envelope, save that Gemini mailer because you can.
Dude, I've got a ton of Gemini mailers. I got a whole box.
Good. Keep them coming in, and I know the guys over at I know Variant Grant and all them over at Indie Volt. They've got a discount code because Gemini is a sponsor of theirs. They got a discount code for 10% off Gemini mailers when you order from Gemini.
Ooh.
And I will put it right here in the chat.
There's you know what? We've done a nice job of shamelessly plugging each other, but also other people.
Yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to.
Here we go. Alt 10% discount. And you're
Yeah,
saying,
I'll take
oh,
that down.
only 10%, but
Hey, 10% goes a long way, man.
when you're ordering in bulk because you have to, ship your product out to, 1 to 400 people,
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Luckily, I still had like a full brick of Gemini mailers from when I got really sick back in 2016. And when a 2,200 square foot trailer pulled up with all my stuff, they were in there and it was still shrink wrapped. I've gone through about half of them now, but I still have about 75 left, so I'm good for a little while. So
Now, the Gemini mailers, those are pretty solid in terms of being able to package your books out and stuff like that. Now, the other thing that I was always told, though, also in terms of the shipping, I actually I don't love the shipping, don't get me wrong, but was not to even really waste your time. Like there's a lot of fulfillment centers out there. Comic Impressions down in Florida will actually do all the shipping for you, and that's kind of a bonus. There's Comics Wellspring, which I will always plug because they're a fantastic printer and they're very fast. They're a little pricier than, say, Comic Impressions. They're starting to do fulfillment now too, and Kablam has been doing that for a while too, and they're pretty solid when all is said and done.
I know RJ from criticalblast.com is now doing fulfillment, and he will, if you want to fulfill it yourself, but you still need help with the logistics. That's what he did for 30 years for, all these big companies. So he's got both the Kickstarter spreadsheets and the Indiegogo spreadsheets down to a science. So he can, tell you, okay, you need to package up, 17 of this tier, 55 of this tier, and so on down the line. Goes, here it is. Here's all your customers. Tier A is highlighted in yellow. Tier B is highlighted in pink. And so on. So on down the line. Or you can do the whole thing. And he set up a thing where creators from overseas can fulfill here in the States a lot cheaper by sending him one big bulk box of their product, and then he'll fulfill it and mail it out here, which makes it cheaper on the creator, and they can pass that savings on to the consumer. So it's been working out. He's fulfilling for Mike Jimmy Larasha de Brillen from the Netherlands. He's fulfilling all his stuff.
You couldn't pay me to say that name right now.
I've had a year and a half's practice. He's been on the show like 5 times, and
wow, colored me very impressed. I butcher names all the time. I butchered a name, a guy. He was an actor, and I think I got his first name wrong at some point. He's like, "No, my name is this." And I'm like, "Well, I look very stupid right now."
We usually just stop at Mike Jimmy because we don't want to go too far. I know the last book that Michael Oden did, The Embrace. Even though he's here, his artist is in Australia. But everything was shipped up here, and Michael's just like, I don't have time to do this. I have like 3 other books I'm writing, a day job, and a kid, and just said, here, it's going to be worth the money.
Yeah.
You do the whole thing. Everything was getting printed up here anyhow, and there's a couple of other creators that I back that are going through him, and I've gotten stuff from him like 3 or 4 times in the past. It's always top notch, packed very well. Geminis and bubble wrap, and gets the fancy plastic auto seal bags that you can tuck the Gemini in case it's raining out and the mailman's like, yeah, okay, yeah, and but he also prints the cover of the book on the outside of that plastic bag. So as soon as you get it, like in your mailbox or on your front porch, you're like, yes, comics. And you can put the bills down for a second and hurry up and open up your bundle of comics to see what you got. So, and I know there's lots and lots of fulfillment centers all around that do awesome jobs. So there's some people want to do it themselves, just because they're afraid of something getting damaged if it gets shipped to too many places. But because some people are like signing everything, and the fulfillment center is in Washington State, but they're like in Oregon, and they're like, well, if they ship it to me, I open it up, then I got to repackage it and ship it to him, and then sometimes they get a little antsy if the A4 prints are going to get damaged being reshipped, or if the books are going to get damaged being reshipped, or sometimes you just gotta drink an extra dark coffee and relax a little bit.
Fun fact: I've never had a drop of coffee in my entire life.
Never.
One time, actually a couple times, because the Keurig gets clogged sometimes. I've mixed my tea with a coffee, and I'll be like, no. But no, never. I'm a tea drinker, not a coffee drinker.
Yeah, my mother drank both. Like, she would have a coffee in the morning, but she took everything. She took everything black. She didn't put sugar in anything. She didn't put milk in anything. I tried to take a sip of her coffee, and it was even worse because it was decaffeinated.
Oh, the decaf, that's not real anything.
Yeah, no. When I was younger, I tried to take a sip of it, and I thought it was gross. But I did like tea. But when I got about 15 or 16, I discovered that I really liked Dunkin' Donuts coffee, especially the flavored stuff with lots and lots of sugar. And then I got lots and lots of diabetes. So now I don't put sugar in anything anymore either. And just a little bit of milk to cool it down so I can, drink it. But and yes, I'm one of those basic bitches. I am dying to get a big container of pumpkin spice coffee right now.
Love it.
I love pumpkin. I can't help it.
My wife is a huge pumpkin everything. The beer, the coffee, all that stuff. The pumpkins too. I don't know. I like it. Deal with it. Not great though.
I like. There's a certain pumpkin beer that we have around here, and I can't remember the name of it because I haven't had anything, to drink, so to speak, since since the coma. So, but I had plenty of it beforehand, and this particular pumpkin beer, well, actually, it was a pumpkin ale, and a bar that a friend of mine used to bartend at, who's passed away since. They used to take the chilled pint cups and rim the glass with brown sugar and then pour the pumpkin ale in. So you would just slightly turn the cup every time you took a drink, and it would literally taste like pumpkin pie because you get the brown sugar and the pumpkin ale, and it's ice cold. And it was like, oh. And the first time that happened, I was taking an Uber home. So it was like, this is good. You want some more to eat? Uh-huh.
Oh, man. Uber is a crazy thing, right?
Yeah.
Like think about the concept of Uber. I'm gonna get in somebody's car.
Yeah.
Are you a taxi driver? No, I'm just some guy. I have a car, or gal. I have a car.
See, there's
You're
things
just
that they
gonna get
tell
in.
us. There's things they tell us when we're kids uh, that when we become adults, it's the complete opposite, polar opposite. When we're kids, don't do drugs, you'll die. When you get older, do these drugs or you're gonna die. Don't get in a stranger's car.
Get into this stranger's car after
Get
you've
into the
already
stranger's
paid
car
them the money.
and make sure you give them a 5-star review, or they might
And
murder
they can
you on
rate
the side
you
road.
as a passenger. They're like, not only that, get in that guy's car, and we're gonna rate you as a passenger.
Mm-hmm.
It's
You're
fascinating.
going to rate us as a passenger, and then, I always wait to see what they rated me as a passenger first. I'll put the 5-star review, and then and then if they rate me badly, I would, I would edit my review. But I had gotten in an accident long before my about a year before my coma, and I was waiting for a while to get a vehicle back. So for say about 2 or 3 months, I had to take an Uber back and forth to work, and I lived in the boonies of Mass, and I was working in clubs down in Providence, Rhode Island. So as the gas went up, so did the Uber fees. So I started off; it was costing me about $25-$30 each way.
Okay.
So then I started convincing other friends that worked in that area, or other friends and family, be like, "Hey, what are you doing tonight? I will give you money if you will pick me up after work and give me a ride home." "Where's your truck?" I go, "It's in the shop." Hit a telephone pole.
Ooh.
I popped a curb, and he's like, "Sure, I can use the money." Like, works for me. I go, "You get gas paid for, plus extra."
No.
Like,
I mean, look, Uber is totally legit now. But I got to be honest, when it first happened, I'm like, I'm not getting in some guy's, like, I'm getting in some stranger's car, essentially. Like you said, it's like, didn't Mama and Dad tell me how this was going to end? Like, you're not supposed to do that. You don't do it when you're 30 either. Like, it doesn't matter.
It never worked out for me. I always had another old guy like me driving the vehicle, and all my friends would get Uber rides. It would always be like some really hot, 20-something college chick driving them. And I'm like, "I really hate you." He's like,
you did not get a good review then as a passenger at that point.
Well, the other guy did. The guy that was driving me was actually my regular driver. Like, even if he wasn't on, he's like, "Here's my number. Text me if you need a ride," because it's more money for him. He lived 10 minutes from my house. He's like, "Well, as long as I don't have to pick up the kids at school and the wife's not mad at me," he goes, "I can hop in the car and disappear for a while." He goes, my regular afternoon guy needs to go to work. I'll see you in an hour." And it was like $50 in his pocket. So he was like, all worked out. But yeah, it's like the internet. There's good and bad effects, on both sides of it.
Agreed. Absolutely agree. We've covered a lot of ground tonight.
Oh yeah. We haven't even talked about your book outside of redrawing pages either.
It's all good. You guys can check me out on SireStudiosInc.com. You can check me out at Sire_Studios. Go to RogueMatter.com. Go to Facebook.com/RogueMatterPodcast. YouTube.com/RogueMatter. I mean, I'm out. I'm about. People can find me.
Check them out on the Rogue Wave podcast. You might actually run into me in the chat once in a while.
I hope so. I love it. The more the merrier in the chat.
Always as I'm scrolling around. So that'll be there. Michael, thanks again for coming and hanging out. I'll keep you updated on my new bionic legs, and I will have this up shortly as I upload it to my podcast platform. And once I get the notification from Spotify, I will share it out and tag you in it.
Please do, and I appreciate it as always.
And thanks once again for hanging out, and have a great evening. And I will do my best when I spot the notification to at least swing in and hail to the chat on one of your shows.
Oh no, it's always appreciated. I definitely do. But like I said, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it too.
You're welcome very much. We'll talk to you soon, and everybody else, we will see you shortly over on the Seanzilla Art Show, 11 p.m. Eastern. Until then, peace, love, and read some comic books.